Yeah, I know he's going to have to get a hold of somebody at Rosetta.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a weird one. I wonder if that's one of those relaunches. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. We're live, my man. How is it going this Monday morning?
Well, it stopped raining, so that's good. It's still cold. Could be worse. I had a conference call with our producer up in Sudbury, Ontario on Friday, and they had 6 inches of snow on the ground on Friday. So it's kind of like, oh boy, I guess I should not be complaining too much because you guys got snow and we don't. We just got nasty rain. So
I'm assuming though. Yesterday I looked out the window as we were enjoying a little Mother's Day here, and it was like a rain snow mix there for a little while. Nothing stuck, so I'm not going to complain because it's not 6 inches, but we did have that snow.
Yeah. It was a good rain yesterday. Hopefully, this warm weather we reseeded our pasture, so it's I'm hoping the rain was good and get some warm weather, shoot some grass up a little bit. It'd be nice. I hope.
So you gotta boast a little bit, right? Like you gotta inform us of that beautiful new piece of iron that you have sitting there.
Oh yeah. So I took the liberty of purchasing a John Deere 1023E. I'll show you a picture of it on my phone. Hopefully that works. Just kind of got sick and tired of borrowing equipment from my neighbors. I mean, I'm not a farmer by any means, but I try to be. So, I mean, I got tired of borrowing equipment from all my neighbors. So I just went out and bought, let's see if that works a little better. Bought that used tractor. I got a 3-point hitch on the back of it, got a bucket on the front of it. I've been slowly trying to ease implements over here because, man, when you get a tractor, you got to get those implements, man. That's the name of the game. So we're probably going to add some forks to it just to have some forks around the farm, and then we'll go from there. But got some good use out of it on Saturday. Cleaned out my hay barn. Moved some wood, moved some manure, and I was actually really impressed. It's a 23 horsepower, so it is kind of a glorified lawnmower, but I was actually really impressed with the amount of power that it brought to the table. So it was good. I have no qualms. I think it was a good buy.
It's all part of that work smarter, not harder.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
So.
All right. Well, I suppose we are entering the end of this book.
Yeah, we are. There's a whole bunch of summaries and sections in the far back side, but this kind of culminates everything. We're going to kind of rehash back some of the principles that we talked about. And the final chapter here is probably one of the most important chapters, just as a statement of reflection and a statement of learning, because I think you probably spend 9 times out of 10 reading books about how to do better at work, and maybe 1 out of 10 reading about how to be a better person. And so a lot of these books are centered around being better at work, which there's nothing wrong with that because, that's hard to do. It is not difficult to be a good person. But sometimes what we do as people, though, is we lose track of what we're doing. We lose track of what's important to us. So it is very important to spend time in reflection. Find out where you've been, where you're going, what you're doing, what you're suffering, what you're excelling. And I don't care where you are in life, what journey you're on. If you don't spend time doing that and checking in, I think you're going to fail. You're going to falter, and it's going to be too late. You'll sit there one day and you'll wonder what the hell even happened. What did I do? So it's very important. This book kind of leads to that point. So we're in section 9. The Great at Work and Life 2, which you see on slide number 2 here. Great at Work and Life 2, section 9. So jumping into slide number 3, what does success look like to you? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves is what does success look like to you? It's totally up to you. We got the slides going.
Yeah, I'm trying. Something's going on here.
I see you're kind of frozen on number 1, so that's what I thought I'd ask. Totally fine.
you know how technology is. We can't.
A little slow.
Well, it was working a second ago, and then you think it would work now. Okay, we're gonna get rid of it, and we're gonna re-bring it.
Okay.
Oh, I got rid of you, Aaron.
Okay.
That's awesome. This is only like week 7 or something. You'd think I would. I think
I imagine we're sucking up quite a bit of CPU power.
Where did you go now? Holy moly.
You lose everything?
There we go. There you are. Hey.
Hi.
Wow. This is entertaining for all
Been here the whole time.
all the entertainment. This see it. It's that work from home. It's only been coffee so far in my coffee mug this morning, I promise.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Oh my goodness. The boys and I are having a disagreement since we're on a break here for a second while I'm fixing this on what effort is in their schoolwork this morning. My wife has been on a conference call and for school, and so I've been helping the boys with their homework, and I'm not as, I don't know, I'm a little bit more strict than them on what they do, which seems weird because my wife's a teacher, so she is very strict, and I'm not going to take that away, but dad's patients aren't as beloved as mom's.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got her. Let's see.
Okay. So do we have the first part of it, or did we lose it?
Holy cow. What is happening here? We are
I see you on. You're on slide number 2. I can see you well.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me try one more time. See if this works. Okay. I don't know why this wants to fight me so bad this morning.
Do you guys have a power outage?
We did. We had it was in and out this morning. Not sure what was going on, but we went for a walk. And we're not on city water, probably like you, we're a septic tank and well and pump. So when the power goes out, and I don't have sorry, I'm doing 7 things here. I don't have a generator. I keep talking to they're saying to my wife that we should get a generator just, you and I travel a lot during regular times, and I don't want them to be without power at some point. So, anyways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we lost power this morning, which leaves us without water for, at least until whatever's in the hot water tank runs out. And then internet was down and everything, so the kids couldn't do schoolwork. And all right, we're going to try it like this, Aaron. Let's see. We'll see what happens. It's a little bit different than normal, but everybody will work with us. It's trial and error. So here we go.
All right. So we start over. You want to just keep going from where we were at?
I'm on the slide you're on. Great at work and life too.
Okay. So this is the last section of the chapter, or the last section of the book. There is another section that's kind of more of a backwards, just kind of a summarization, but this is really the wrap up of this entire book. It's a really good chapter talking about balancing that work and that life, because that's really important. I think we tend to get a little bit too enamored in our work and just trapped in our work from time to time. So we have to be able to step back from time to time and realize that where we're going, where we've been, what we're doing right now. If you don't do that, I think it quickly leads to burnout.
Yeah. Yep.
Next slide. Now, you have to ask yourself, what does success look like to you? If success to you is money or fame, or that's great. If it's being super religious, that's great too. If it's being a family man, that's great too. You have to just be able to define your successes. And there's a whole bunch of resources online and books that can help you find that if you're asking yourself that question. I mean, it is a tough question to ask. One would quickly say, I just want to be good at everything. I think that's the wrong way to go, because you can't be good at everything. I think you can certainly try, but you're going to have to, you know what I say here, find balance. I think that's my personal, that's how I define success, is I find balance. When I am in balance with myself and the pillars that I call of my life, then I'm happy, then I'm content with what's going on. If I get out of balance, which I do, that's when I become agitated. That's when I try to get myself back to balance. But that's how I define success for me. Success for me is not about money and fame, and it's not about, I mean, I do have religion in there, but I don't want to be super religious. I don't want to be number one dad of the year, even though sometimes I think I am, but I would like to be a good family man. So I like to find that balance, and that for me is successful. When I'm in balance, when all of my stars are aligned, that's my success. That's how I define my success.
Well, and you nailed it. It's you, right? So this is it's a very personal thing. It's you're not going to be able to look to somebody else and say, well, I want that, because this is individuality, right? This is, what is it that makes you happy? What is success to you, not a group of people, or not, and you got to look inward, right? It's not what does it look like to other people. It is, what is success for you. So
yeah, and I came from, I will say that my vision, just like I think a lot of you will find out, is that your definition of success can change over time. My definition of success changed drastically. When I started in the precast world, I wanted to be super rich. You had your own business, so you felt like you really could control your destiny financially wise. So I was like, okay, this is great. I'm just going to start making a whole bunch of money and everything will be good. Then it turned into, I wanted to have power. I wanted to be the best of the best. I was sick and tired of people telling me that I couldn't do things because, I was at one level and I was never going to be able to reach a level. I always had a ceiling above my head and I could never break through that ceiling. So it was all about power. Now, what sacrifices I made, or I should say what my family made, is where I realized I was getting out of balance. And that's where things really changed for me, is when I sat down in a time of self-reflection and understood that things were drastically out of balance. And then I sat down and finally realized what my true definition of success is today, and that is that balance. I believe that you can operate in all those realms, but you can't let one sacrifice a terrible amount. And that's where I was getting to. I was sacrificing a lot of time with my kids and with my family and my religion to do the things that I needed to do. And that's when I hit a wall. I hit a quintessential emotional wall and understood that my life was completely out of balance. And so that's when I rebalanced myself and where I'm at today. So that's my personal story, and we'll touch on a little bit of that a little bit later, but that's my personal take on success and balance.
Yeah. You and I I think are going to have some pretty similar stories as to work-life balance. So, yes. We'll hit on those.
Yeah. So slide number 4. This is a really good. If you have the time, watch this on YouTube. It's an inauguration speech that Matthew McConaughey gave to the University of Houston, I believe. It's on YouTube. It's called Matthew McConaughey's 13 Truths. It's what he lives his life by. And I've taken a lot of this. I find myself, I watch this. I think I rewatch this maybe once a month, just to make sure that I am following my balances and just taking, every time I watch it, I take something else away. Something else that he lives his life by. But it's a really good watch. Like I said, if you got the time to understand how he defines his successes in life and how he defines where he's going and how it's kind of his roadmap to living his life. And he's had a pretty amazing and very diverse life. So.
Yeah, I've seen this a couple times as well, and it's inspirational. It's not I'm an actor, I'm famous, I'm powerful. It's just him down to earth, which is refreshing, and it kind of it helps. I don't know. You're right. It helps you center a little bit and focus maybe a little bit more to what the real things are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in the next slide, it's kind of the same thing. Some of the things that we've taken away from this book are going to help us be better people. They're going to help us with that balance. They're going to help us attain those successes, whichever they are. If you, like I said, if your success for you is defined as wanting to be a millionaire and wanting to work better, these principles can help you. If you want to have a better balance in life, these principles will help you. So some of the major ones that we touched on over the course of this book: do less than obsess. Remember, we're bringing the razor blade to the table, and we're shaving off those unnecessary tasks that we shouldn't be doing. We are honing into a unified vision, and we are just going to obsess and obsess and obsess over that until we get to that final goal. Redesign your work was another one. That's where we talk about restructuring our days, restructuring our work life, restructuring our jobs, adding people, whatever we need to do to redesign our work to make it more suitable for what we're doing. P squared, one of my most favorite principles from this book, having people with passion and purpose is a great principle in the work life, whether you're manufacturing or you're contracting, whatever you're doing. Having folks that are P squared is very, very important. Be a forceful champion was another one where we talked about being not so much a jackass, but being a forceful champion, believing in what you're doing, and forcefully fight to get what you want to get to. Don't give up. Don't stray your head one way or another. Keep the eyes on the prize and keep working hard. Fight and unite was one of the last ones that we talked about, and that was talking about bringing commonality, bringing a group together, collaboration, working together towards one cause. Very important for getting work done efficiently. So those are, kind of some of the major principles. I know we touched on a couple other ones, but, those are kind of the major principles. Now, the next slide here, we talked, this is an actual snapshot from the book. Now, as you recall, this book was a summarization of a whole bunch of surveys that were done. I think it was 5,000 people that had all different walks of life. And what they found at the end was that the folks that actually implemented some of these principles, some of them actually worked and worked really well. So if we talk about improving your job satisfaction, so improving your overall mindset of your job, which is very important, those that implemented the P squared, that had passion and purpose and also worked with people that had passion and purpose, they had a 50% increase in job satisfaction. So that's a big number. I mean, if you could think about that, if you could think about, the guys that you work with, however big your crew is, your manufacturing crew is, think of half of them being able to have passion and purpose. How much easier would your job be if you had half of your crew with passion and purpose? So that's really, I think that's pretty stark. That's a stark number.
Yeah.
Redesigning your work was 25% roughly. So, redesigning your work, and that kind of makes sense. If you redesign your work, I think you probably can all point to one person. So let's say like 1 in 4 people that are working for you right now, there's probably one person that you probably could do without. You always say that all the time. There's always one person that I could be without. Redesigning your work kind of works around that whole entire principle. So just think about that. If that one person can be redesigned so that they can actually fit in your puzzle, your work life is going to be better. And then champion forcefully and discipline collaboration. 15% somewhere in there where that scale falls. That's that's pretty. You could think of that. I mean, yes, obviously, if you're going to push and push and push, you're going to get better results. I mean, obviously, you try. That's speaking on a champion forcefully, as well as if you have discipline collaboration. If you're collaborating well with your people, your job satisfaction is going to increase. That's a drop in the bucket right there. So let's move on to the next slide here, number 7, avoiding burnout. I pose this question, do you even know what burnout is? I think we forget that all the time. I think we forget it because we just get so wrapped up into a project, into a job. You just get so caught up in things, and it's very hard sometimes to just back away and step away, but you have to. It's so important. I remember, and that was my first true definition of burnout. I was 22. We had our biggest agricultural year ever, and we had to kick out just an insane amount of these things we call T-panels. And I was working essentially 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was coming home and I was sleeping on a couch for about 2 hours, and I'd go back into our plant because we had to keep pouring these things. We had a limited amount of forms. And so we were kicking out. And it essentially took my whole entire summer away. And I didn't even think about it because I had my eyes on the prize because I was going to kick out this many pieces. I was not going to miss a deadline. I am so just caught up in deadlines. I hate missing deadlines. If I miss a deadline, I feel like the biggest piece of crap in the world. And so I was not going to miss a deadline. And our deadline usually is a Labor Day because farmers want to chop all their crops and put them away in their silo bunkers. And that's what these T-panels are used for. So I was so enraptured in doing this. I, at one point in time, was going to bring my camper in so that I could just park my camper right next to our shop. And that's when you kind of just stop, And at that time, I was fortunate enough that I only had my oldest was a baby, so there wasn't a terrible amount going on in my life, but there was stuff going on in my life that I sacrificed. I missed it. It's gone now. I can't get it back. But at that time, I never realized it at all. I realize it now. I realized it was a mistake, but I didn't even think about it. And I was burnt out. After that, my fall and my winter, you didn't want to. I think I went home after all that was done. I think I slept for like a week and a half. I didn't talk to anybody. I just shut myself into a locker and I'm done. So it's a big deal.
It is. I mean, and burnout is one of those things that you don't see coming until it's happened. I mean, like you said, you've got your eye on the prize, and that's where I think this whole concept of finding balance is key. That, I know for me it's similar. Right? We were both business owners, and you've got so many different things that you're looking down this tunnel at. You're looking a lot of times at a long-term kind of view of we need to get this done because there's this deadline or we got this next project coming up, and we need to stay on track. And you're very focused at, what needs to get done for the next task because there's like you said, there's this deadline, there's that deadline, winter comes, we're shut down, whatever. My balance is my wife, is my family, because sometimes, as much of a blessing as it is a curse that my wife's a teacher and gets the summers off, being in the landscape industry, summers, I get the winters off and I work the summers, right? I mean, really is how it goes. And so there is that, there was a lot of time that there was conflict in that way of, make hay when the sun shines kind of statement. It's go, go, go. You're not going to get those man hours back, but yet you do need to take a minute to take a breath. And I was never that person, just like, you're kind of talking, I know that you're not that type of person. So it took my second child and my wife before I really kind of refocused back in on what was important, because in my mind, everything was for the family, but I was taking everything away from the family by trying to achieve that. So 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that burnout you don't see coming until it's there, and that's, again, when I look, again, hindsight's 2020. I look back and I can see my wife trying to help me see the signs and take that breath, before it occurred. Yep.
Yeah, it's very true, and and you say it very well. You don't know it until it's already happened, and it's generally the only way to get out of it is a drastic change, and that's sometimes that's not there. It's not, and you can walk through a very scary place if there's not a way out, if there's not a way back. I think it's been said before. I mean, you can't take your money, you can't take your cars, you can't take your houses to your grave with you. The only thing you take to your grave with you is your memories. And that's what I think you have to hold paramount is your memories, because, and you probably think in your mind, I'll make all this money and then I'll build this big legacy for my kids. And, I want to make sure my kids are comfortable, go to college and they can start their lives off. Well, I mean, shit. I mean, life is life. I mean, you can try all you want and you'll get there, maybe you'll help out, but you may also get all the money in the world and help your kids go to college and then they end up, screwing up. You don't know those things. But what they will remember is that you walked hand in hand in that journey with them instead of just giving them a check and saying, here, have a good life. They're going to remember tenfold more that you were there to walk with them and tell them that if you do screw up, I'll be there for you. That's more important in my eyes.
When it's almost a selfish thing, right? Like, you think, I need to do this for them. I need to get this here so that they can have this. But that's your thought of what it is. It's odd and it's hard to say that, right? Because I know that I'm definitely this way a lot of the time. But it's definitely a selfish mindset to say, I got to work hard. I'm gonna do it now so that I can do this then. Because that's for you, and you have to do some things for yourself, but yet you have to understand that, and this is, I don't know, this is a thing for a lot of, especially the business owners, the small business owners, those guys that, like the contracting community. It's hard because it is, not only are you building something for yourself, right? That's what this is. You're an entrepreneur, is that mindset, but you always have in the back of the mind too that you have employees and you're trying to make sure that they stay, working and healthy and, bringing in income to support their families. So you carry that weight with you as well. And a lot of times you put your satisfaction or what have you on the back burner because of that thought. And there's a lot to this, right? There's no easy answer. There's no, this is going to work for everybody, or, hey, everything's going to be, peanut butter and cherries if you just take a breath every once in a while, because like you said, it's life and it's coming at you, and you just got to keep these things going through your mind.
Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like we're preaching you should not work hard, because we're not. I mean, I think that as business owners, you just have to understand those sacrifices. I'm not saying that every time you're faced with a choice between gaining another new client, or helping a client out versus your son's baseball game or your son's hockey game, you should always choose the hockey game or the baseball game. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that you have to be comfortable with the choice that you make, because that's where I got burnt out, is because I didn't even realize the choice that I was making. You have to be fully aware of the situation that you're in and fully aware of your choice. And that is where you lose it. If you don't have that understanding, you don't have that grasp, because there will be times where you have to make that choice, and there isn't a right or a wrong choice. You just have to understand the choice that you made and what's going to happen afterward. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't say there is a right or wrong way, because if you get another customer, it's great. It's another more money in the bank, great. But you may miss the first home run. You may miss a goal. There'll be other ones.
Yep.
But there'll also be other clients too. So just understand that. That's the only thing that I'm saying, because if you don't, you will get burnt out very quickly. So in the book, digress here. We also talk about they also talk about this burnout effect and using some of these principles to help lower the burnout. So do less than obsess. It's going to prevent burnout about 25 to 30%. Yeah, I mean that's pretty common. I mean, if you're going to shave your day, you're going to do less. You're going to shave. You're going to carve. You're going to focus on that one thing. You're going to probably not be burnt out because you're not going to be such in a mind boggle. You're going to be so laser focused on what's going to get you there that you won't burn out. Discipline, collaboration, and P squared are also going to have positive effects on reducing burnout. Just because, yes, you're disciplined, you're working like that well-oiled machine. Same with P squared, you got people working with you that are that well-oiled machine. So that's going to help lower that burnout rate, significantly. So those are three good principles. If you're feeling like you're starting to, tires are starting to fall off the train, maybe start implementing some of these principles and maybe it'll help. That's why they're there. They've had success in 5,000 people, but, and maybe they will for you too. So just understand that. I'll jump down to the bottom. Obviously, if you're going from 50 to 65 hours per week, it's going to burn you out faster. You're going to start losing your balance of your home life. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, some weeks are going to require you to do that. That's also a no-brainer. But if you keep doing it over and over and over again, it is going to burn you out. Then Fight and Unite's got a minimal effect, and that's, if you're gonna fight, you're gonna unite people, and you're gonna fight towards a common cause. It's gonna burn you out just because you're gonna be so hell-bent focused on achieving that goal or achieving that aspect that it is gonna burn you out. It's gonna take a lot longer of a time, but it will get you.
And I like those top three. Really, what it's saying is that you're not. We go back to what we were just talking about the slide before, where we were giving our examples of where burnout will hit you and how it's hit us and what have you. All of those statements and my story and your story was me, right? It was, this is what I was doing. This is how I got to burnout. I was doing this. I was doing that. Where these three examples are where we're sharing those responsibilities and those weights and decisions and things like that, delegation, right? That and I know that one of the key things that led me to that burnout edge and just makes your day that much more difficult is I know that my personality is I want control. And I have a hard time, especially when I was running my business. It was your name on the side of the truck. It was your name that was in your mind that is the reputation and things like that. So I was very much wanting control of all of that so that I could control what that looked like to the end user, right? Once I started delegating, once I released a little bit of that control and let others make decisions, you realize quickly that they're not all out to just ruin anything, right? They take part of that responsibility and they feel that responsibility. So they're making good decisions. They're making the right decisions for the business. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, all right, this was ridiculous that I felt that I was the only one that could make these decisions. And it's that weight. Once I started, letting go of some of that, you back off of that burnout edge because you're now able to see a little bit more of a balance. Yeah,
that's very true. That's a good story. I can double up on that one too, because when I was running our plant, I was doing production, I was doing QC, I was doing sales, I was doing contractor support, I was doing marketing, I was doing HR, and then I was trying to just keep a hold of what was ever going on in the plant, trying to general oversight. So, you're doing all those things at a small scale, it was fine. But as it started getting bigger, you started sacrificing things within the operation, and you had to ask yourself, God, what am I doing here? I'm just hiring these guys off the street, and they're doing mundane jobs, and they're putting things together for me, but I'm not really getting anywhere. I'm just spinning my tires. And then I had met our plant manager that at the time when we hired him, we trained him and we hired him to actually run the plant and take so much off my plate. And it's like somebody lifted a 100-pound weight off your chest. It's ridiculous the amount of relief it is when you start seeing people that are empowered to make the right decisions for the company, that can help collaborate and work towards that common goal. It's a huge, huge deal.
Yeah. Yep.
So next slide here, kind of to round it all out, we're going to just take another snippet from the book. Smart work improves work-life balance. So, first and foremost, the glaring one right there, going from 50 to 65 hours in a week. Obviously, that's not going to help your work and life balance. It's not going to help it at all because you'll be spending more time at work than you will at home. Very simple. What's going to improve is going to be do less and obsess and disciplined collaboration, kind of the same thing. Building a team that's going to start working towards a unified goal, and then also bringing that razor blade and wielding the tasks, shaving the tasks off that are unnecessary, and having that laser focus. So P squared might jump out to you and say, gosh, you've been talking about P squared for so long about how it's so good. How come it's showing something bad? Well, I mean, hindsight is it's a very small number. It's less than 5%. I would say somewhere in there, 5%. And I mean, it does kind of make sense. If you're going to be very passionate, you're going to be very purposeful, you're probably going to drive a little bit harder than most. And your team's going to drive a little harder than most, which could lead to a little bit of work-life imbalance. I mean, it's a small number. I think that number is probably kind of a general, if you take a snippet of your day, there's probably some days that you are operating more on that work side and less on the life side. And then there's some days that you're more on the life and less on the work. So you're going to go up and down by 5 to 10% every day. It's just a common fluctuation. So I bet if they redid the survey, they would probably find that number goes to a positive 5%, and then maybe it goes to a 0. So that number, I think, is going to move.
Well, and I think the other thing that we all have to just stop and understand is that numbers are numbers, and there's going to be this is going to be a wave, right? There's going to be an ebb and a flow with work-life balance to start with. It doesn't matter what industry, what livelihood we take in, be it landscape. When I was a contractor, design build owner, right? The summers are obviously going to be the busiest times. It makes sense. Spring and into the summer, and then you get a little wave late summer, early fall where it slows down, and then it picks up before the end of the season, and then if you're not plowing snow, we head off generally. But my point being is that sometimes you're going to be more work heavy because that's the demand at the time that you give. And then that you're going to be able to take back the life balance at another point. And so there's those decisions. We could take this out to the farming community, right? We know, if you're farmers, that there is a certain time that you're going to be in the cab of your tractor, combine, planter, whatever it is, to get it in and then to get it back out. And in between those times, there's more of an opportunity for life balance. Some things there's just deadlines for that you have to get done because of what you're doing. And that's, again, I'd like to, as we look at the numbers and we say, we could do this and there's going to be a great balance, it's an ebb and a flow. You're going to have times that you're going to be heavier in work, and you're going to have times that you can, step back and feel a little bit more at ease. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally agree. In our world, in the precasting world in the Midwest, it was the fall time. The fall time, you just knew things were, everybody's rushing. Projects are rushing to get done before winter. Farmers are rushing to get stuff in their silos up. Everything is rushing before the first frost, the first freeze. So that was always, summer did pick up. The fall was that was the time that you knew everybody had to have their A game. And then when you got it back was, after Christmas, usually into springtime. So that's totally agree with that statement. Totally agree. So, all these things we're talking about finding balance, guys, and that's the big thing. Finding that balance, finding out what makes you happy. I believe that you can live in a world where you can be happy with your work and happy with your life. I believe that sometimes those things can skew one way or another, and that's perfectly fine. You can have natural fluctuations, but I do believe that it is all about balance. It's all about returning everything to a normalcy. Go to slide number 11. and this comes directly from Matthew McConaughey's speech in the forward section of his presentation. It's all about just think about your life as a checkbook, as a debit and a credit section, and ask yourself what your major principles are. I mean, I know checkbooks don't exist anymore, right? But I mean, think about it that way. Accounting 101, debits and credits. Okay, debits are good, credits are bad. Think about it that way. So ask yourself every day, what is most important to me? Is it my relationship with my girlfriend, with my spouse? Is it a relationship with my kids? If I don't have kids, is my relationship with my pet? Is it my work life? Is it my money that I have? Is it the car that I drive, or the possessions that I have, or my religion? Is that important to me? Is it going out with my friends on Friday night to the bars and, whatever? Ask yourself what is important, and that's going to change over time. You will change that over time. I guarantee you, when you come out of college, your social life is going to be just peaking. You're going to think that you're going to want to go out every Friday and Saturday night, but what you're going to lose is that probably some of that work and that professionalism and growing inside of a company. Same thing, with you go out and you meet your wife, your future wife, so you're super social, but eventually at some point in time, you're going to have to calm down. So that's very, very important. Same thing with religion too. Religion is going to suffer if you're going to go out every Friday night, every Saturday night. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's a part of life. But you first have to define what those principles are. It can be 2 of them, it can be 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them. I don't care. Whatever makes you happy. But, get in the habit, put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar. Every Friday night, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to actually write down what my principles are. And I'm going to ask myself, am I in that debit section or am I in that credit section? Do I need to work harder on this section and maybe lax on this section? Maybe, like I said, you went out on Friday night with your friends or Saturday night and you missed church on Saturday or Sunday, whichever one you go to. So maybe you're feeling a little down, you're feeling like a heathen, I guess is what they say. So maybe you need to pick up your Bible and read a couple scriptures. But maybe you're excelling at work, but maybe your relationship with your children and your spouse is suffering. So back off a little bit of work, take your wife out to dinner, take kids to the movies when we can do that again. Think about, ask yourself those questions. And it's the same thing with work. Maybe you're excelling at home life. Maybe you're doing great. Maybe you are number one dad, but your work is suffering now. So spend time in reflection, find that balance, ask yourself to find those pillars. If you need help with finding those pillars, give Nate or I a call. We can sit here and hash it out. What is a good pillar to have? I won't share on this with what my pillars are because it is very personal to me, but I would share it one-on-one with you guys. I just don't feel comfortable doing it on this space, but my pillars are very personal to me. And I ask myself, am I in that balance? Have I found my balance? What's out of whack here? What do I need to readjust? It's a great exercise. We forget about it all the time. We just let life just go and go and go, and we react and we change and we do things. But do we ever really stop and just do a pulse check and see where we're at? I think you find that many of us don't. But it's very important to do. So that's my take-home message. Find the balance.
Yeah, I can't add to that, Aaron. That's yeah. I have nothing to add to that.
So it's good. It's so important. It's such a mundane thing, but it's an important thing. We don't do it all the time, and we need to.
No, and it is really, like you said, it's a checkup, right? It's that we do it. We do quarterly meetings, we do quarterly checkups, and all this with work, and we don't. I don't know. I never done it personally, and I guess this is kind of a eye opener. I talk about hitting the wall of being just overwhelmed and burnt out and all that, and I don't know if I've necessarily ever done this, and it just kind of hit me of why don't I do a quarterly personal look, or a monthly, or a bi-weekly, or whatever it is. Like, pick something. But I don't know if I'll be honest with you, this is a good one. I can't tell you that I've actually done this necessarily, at least on purpose. I'm sure I've said to myself, can I be better at
Oh, yeah.
one of these, right? Just being the nature of a person. But I like the thought of just saying, hey, you know what? I schedule work things. I schedule that. And I don't want to sound weird about saying I'm going to schedule something personal here and go through it. But really, as I read it, I should be, right? I should say, take a minute. How did this last month go? Or how did this last whatever? And how can I change? Do I feel that I'm not meeting the expectations of my wife, right? Or my spouse? And why? And what can I do? What can I do differently going forward to change and to be better, to get to that goal? It's actually got. I'm losing my train of thought because it's got me thinking about a couple things in here actually, and now I better be careful. So.
That's good. That's really good. It's a good exercise. I've been doing it for a while now, and it does help. I will tell you, first and foremost. The second, when you can, define your pillars, define your principles, your importance in life, and keep them in balance. It's a good exercise. It's a simple exercise. When you run out of money in your checkbook tells you it's the same thing. If you don't pay enough attention to one of these pillars, something's going to happen. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your wife. You're going to lose your kids. So they're not always going to all be in the positive section. Everybody knows that. That's common knowledge. But where are you at? And what can you do to restructure the next week or the next month to gain that back? Because you can always gain it back until, it gets so far. But that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to not let it get to that point. We're not letting it try to get to that point of burnout, of losing your wife, losing your kids, so on and so forth. So, good stuff. I know I think we had a long talk today, but it was a good talk. That's what it's all about. It's balance, man. Balance is key.
Yeah. And just being aware of it, right? Again, I'm not going to sit here and preach to anybody that I have this grasp, or crazy insight on this, or I'm an expert at this, because we all know that I'm not, and I don't think anybody is. This is a 100% human work in progress, right? And the fact that we can at least talk about it, maybe be open, find somebody, a confidant to help guide, right? Or give you the feedback that you need, the true feedback, without being judgmental or whatever, right? That you feel comfortable with, and self-reflection, and be honest with yourself. I mean, this is a work in progress for me. Yeah. I know that, but I'm more than happy to, help talk it through with others, and just I as you mentioned, and as I've mentioned, I mean, I've hit some of the walls, and that's what I find. One of the key things that I enjoy about what I do now, right, here at Rosetta, and just my time in this industry specifically, helping contractors, helping dealer partners and our producer partners, is that I have experienced a lot of things because of my career in the industry. And I'm very open to sharing those experiences. Some of them not so positive. And I hope that those are the experiences that I can share to help others not get that far down the path, and you know what I mean? They just help, right? That's what I like about this, the education, the teaching, the helping, so that others can find a little bit maybe easier path or a little bit more clarity in something. That's what I enjoy, because I've been here.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly why I like the position that I'm in, is be able to help people, be able to walk an easier path than the one that I walked, and not make the mistakes that I did. And I'm not saying that I'm a Zen master in life or anything like that. I am not. But I do know a few things, and I'm always willing to talk too. So that's kind of That's a nice thing to have, is the ability to talk. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one.
Yeah, and that's something that we just encourage all of you out there in TV land listening, and is we're open, right? Whether it's email, text message, phone, that's why we are here, right? And we encourage you that any questions, any thoughts, any whatever, just reach out, and if you're comfortable, and we're here to listen, right? We keep saying let's talk, but Aaron has hit on it many a times in previous conversations that listen 75% more than we talk, right? And that's what we're here for. So
yeah, yep.
That's all I've got before I sound like I'm getting too mushy.
Yeah.
So generally wraps up the book. I mean, there's obviously some other parts that you can go through, and for those that were following along, maybe listening to it, or they've bought a copy of it, I'm going to go out and be very honest that if you've got questions, you reach out to either one of us. Aaron is much more versed in this book than I am. I am going to personally reread this. I did not have the hard copy. We were in the midst of the only thing you could buy on Amazon was toilet paper at the time that we started this, so I was unable to get the book. So I listened to it. I followed, did all the stuff on my Audible. I bought it as an Audible book, and so I'm going to buy this book. But like I said, questions in Great at Work and things like that, reach out to either one of us. Aaron is much more versed in it than I am, so but I know we're both willing to help, and I'm excited for next week when we start digging into Good to Great. I'll reach over here, Good to Great, next week. And actually, since we've started, I should have done this before.
I got mine here.
Oh, you got it? Did you have it, or did you order it?
Mine came. Yep. What's that?
You ordered it, right?
Yep, I ordered it last week. Bought it used. Yeah, I got you. I ordered it. Got it about I think it was $10 used. I haven't read it yet. I will beforehand. I'm trying to finish this other book that I'm reading right now. I'm about finished up with that one, then I'm gonna start this next one. So I'll get there before our next chat for sure.
Nice. Yeah, this one's, I don't know, about the same as the last one as far as length. So yeah, we'll get started into that. I don't know. I think I would say the first two chapters are actually a pretty easy read. So maybe we'll plan on that for next week as kind of our start, and then we'll lay out, where we go from there. But I think that'll be the best thing, is just the first two chapters, which is Good as the Enemy of Great and Level 5 Leadership. So we'll dig in.
Okay.
And,
we'll plan on that.
Yeah, that's where we'll start. So awesome.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
That's all I got. I'll say have a great week, guys. Been nice talking to you. It's been a good emotional deep dive today. I like those. They're good. Kind of scrape out the cobwebs and the emotional closet a little bit. That's always a good thing to do. So it's been nice talking to you.
Yeah. Awesome. Have a good week, everybody. Aaron, have a good week. We'll see everybody again Monday, 11:30 Central.
Sounds good. Bye, guys.